ever since the topic of the border crisis has come up during the Biden administration, one infuriating thing is that very few people have brought up the fact that foreign policy is tied to what we're experiencing at the border. Well, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez finally put out a video explaining exactly what I've been wanting members of Congress to talk about. Let's take a look.
So let's talk about this, because so much of our national conversation, which is not a conversation about immigration, is driven by people who could not care less about immigrants. Often people want to say, why aren't you talking about the border crisis? Or why aren't you talking about it in this way? Well, we're talking about it. They just don't like how we're talking about it, because it's not a border crisis. It's an imperialism crisis. It's a climate crisis. It's a trade crisis. And also, it's a carceral crisis, because as I have already said, even during this term and this president, our immigration system is based and designed on our carceral system.
She's exactly right about that. And look, if she were one of these lawmakers who says the right things, but then consistently votes in favor of the National Defense Authorization Act, which is the military funding legislation, then I wouldn't give her brownie points. But she has voted against it, and she has a pretty clear understanding of what caused, the migrant situation at the border. And I have evidence for that. I want to elaborate on that further. But before I do, Farron, I wanted to bring you in because I was under the impression, based on some loudmouths on Twitter, that AOC is actually not our friend, that she actually doesn't know what she's doing.
Oh no, fraud squad, totally, right? I mean, it's ridiculous, these people who do this crap. But no, it's funny, because I was actually in a conversation earlier this week, and I brought up the climate change issue on immigration, because somebody asked, what's driving all this? I said, well, climate change is the big ignored problem, especially in Central and South America. We have a lot of communities, a lot of countries that are already poor. And then when you take an issue like climate change, which is a threat multiplier, you bring in the droughts, you destroy the crops, you leave people destitute and desperate, and before you know it, you have a crisis. Whether it's in that country, whether it's an immigration crisis. I mean, this is literally, think back to An Inconvenient Truth. This is literally like one of the main theses of that documentary, of what happens when we have millions and millions of people displaced every year because of climate change. We've been warned. We knew this would happen, just through climate change alone. Then you throw in, yes, the US imperialism in these areas, and you have a US made crisis. And now we're acting, oh no, we don't know what to, no, we did this. And now we're sitting here saying, well, come on up, we're gonna throw you in a cage with a tinfoil blanket.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I think you just helped me crystallize in my mind exactly what it is that frustrates me. The conversations, or at least like the dominant talking point, the beginning of the conversation is usually, why is this happening to us, right? As if the United States government and the American people have been victimized by an influx of migrants at the border. No. Like, there needs to be personal responsibility. And look, maybe personal responsibility goes a little far, because this is the US government, which has had a long history of being the top polluter in the world. Certainly when it comes to CO2 emissions, we've certainly gone into other countries to overthrow democratically elected leaders, thus destabilizing those countries, leading to a lot of violence in those countries. So let's start off with some specific details with climate change. For instance, the largest share of global greenhouse gases emitted since the Industrial Revolution comes from the United States. In 2018, the United States emitted 15.53 metric tons of carbon dioxide per capita. Just to compare us to China, China emitted 6.59 metric tons. So we are the top polluter still, till this day. We're number one. Global warming manifested itself in very destructive hurricanes over the past several years, but also in a long-term drought situation over wide swaths of, oh, would you look at that, Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, a drought which has ruined crops for several seasons in a row and given the rural population little choice but to uproot themselves and hit the migrant trail. The global warming is also the result of current capitalist mode of production. So, businesses don't want to cut back on CO2. Donald Trump certainly empowered them to loosen up their polluting activities. And so we're obviously seeing a flow of migrants as a result, a direct result of the actions that we've taken both for businesses and for US imperialist reasons. And speaking of imperialism, real quick, the US intervened in Guatemala in 1954. That was the coup that I've been talking about this week, where they overthrew the moderately left of center government of President Arbenz, who had been seen as soft communism and a threat to the profits of the United Fruit Company with connections within the Eisenhower administration. The United States connived in the overthrow of the moderately progressive government of Honduras in 2009. And so unsurprisingly, we're seeing a flow of immigrants from these specific countries. So it's not happening to us. The chickens have come home to roost. These are the consequences of US foreign policy. These are the consequences of policies that impact corporations and how much they can pollute the world, not just this country. And so we need to be real about that because there are no band-aids. There really are no band-aids. This is gonna continue to be a problem unless we actually look forward to long-term solutions.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.